Brittany dropped the plate
My
in front of
family
me so
served
hard the fork
leftovers.
rattled against the china.
The next morning,
She did
I
not
made
look at
sure
me.
every card
She
they
never looked at
owned
me.
stopped working.
The meat was gray, curled at the edges, swimming in congealed fat that had turned white and solid. Across the table, my son Kevin sliced into a ribeye so pink and perfect that juice pooled beneath his knife. Steam rose from his plate. His wife got the same. My grandson Ethan got the same. Their dog Duke, a golden retriever who had never worked a day in his life, had fresh sirloin cuts in his bowl by the kitchen door. But me, the woman who paid the down payment on this house, who covered their mortgage when Kevin lost his job, who emptied half my retirement fund so Brittany could renovate her kitchen with Italian marble I got the leftovers from 4 days ago. Brittany caught me staring at my plate. She smiled. That smile. I will carry it with me until the day I die. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel and follow my story until the very end. Please comment below with the city you are watching from so I can see how far my story has traveled. Now let me tell you everything. That Thanksgiving evening began the way every holiday at Kevin's house began, with me arriving early and being told I was not needed. I pulled into the driveway at 4 o'clock carrying my mother's apple pie. The same recipe I had been making for 50 years. The same recipe I taught Kevin when he was 6 years old, standing on a step stool beside me, pressing fork marks into the crust with his tiny fingers. He used to lick the sugar off his hands and ask if he could have a slice before dinner. That boy is gone now. Something else lives in his body. Brittany answered the door before I could knock. She looked at the pie dish in my hands and her face did something complicated. Not quite a frown. Something worse. Disappointment masquerading as patience. "Oh," she said, "you brought pie." "I always bring pie," I told her. She took a small step backward but made no move to take the dish from my hands. I ordered 3 from La Maison, that French bakery downtown, the one that won the James Beard nomination. I stood on her porch holding my mother's recipe. "But I suppose we can find a spot for yours somewhere," she continued, "for anyone who wants something more rustic." Rustic. She said it the way someone might say roadkill. I walked past her into the house. The kitchen was chaos. 2 caterers in black uniforms moved between stations. Brittany had hired professionals again. She always hired professionals. Cooking was beneath her. Cleaning was beneath her. Most things were beneath her except spending money that was not hers. I found a spot for my pie on the back counter, hidden behind a stack of gold bakery boxes. Kevin appeared in the doorway. He was wearing a sweater that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I knew because I had seen the charge on the credit card statement. The credit card that was technically mine. "Mom," he said. He did not come closer. He did not hug me. "You are early. I am always early." He nodded and looked at his phone. Something about checking the wine temperature. Then he was gone. I stood alone in that kitchen while strangers prepared the meal. The refrigerator hummed behind me. I opened it to find a glass of water, and that is when I saw it. Pushed to the back shelf, a plastic container with grease-stained sides. Inside was meat the color of wet cement. The Sunday roast from 4 days ago. I recognized the cut. I had seen Brittany serve it. I had watched Kevin carve it. Now it sat in its own congealed fat, forgotten and spoiling. I closed the refrigerator door. Something cold moved through my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something older than anger. Recognition. 20 minutes later, guests began arriving. Brittany's sister Amanda came first with her husband Richard. Then came 2 couples from their country club. Then came Brittany's college roommate who had flown in from Chicago specifically for this dinner. Everyone received hugs. Everyone received compliments. Everyone received Brittany's full attention. I sat in a chair in the corner of the living room and waited. My grandson Ethan found me there. He was 16 now, tall and quiet with his grandfather's eyes. He sat on the arm of my chair and leaned close. "Hey, Grandma," he whispered. "How are you doing?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. How is school?" Before he could answer, Brittany's voice cut across the room. "Ethan, I need you to help me with the seating cards." He gave me an apologetic look and walked away. The seating cards. Of course. When we moved to the dining room, I discovered where Brittany had placed me, at the far end of the table, against the wall. in a chair that did not match the others because it had been pulled from the hallway at the last minute. There was no place setting in front of it, no folded napkin, no wine glass, just a chair wedged between the corner and the kitchen door positioned, so I would have to crane my neck to see anyone, and they would have to deliberately turn around to see me. I looked at Kevin. He was adjusting a centerpiece. "Kevin," I said. He turned. "Where should I sit?" He glanced at the mismatched chair. "Oh, we had to squeeze in an extra spot. You do not mind being by the kitchen, do you? It is actually warmer over there." Warmer, as if I were a houseplant. I sat down. The dinner service began. The caterers moved with precision, placing salads, pouring wine, describing each course. I watched plate after plate circle the table. Ribeye steaks, thick as dictionaries, glistening with herb butter, cooked exactly to each guest's preference. Kevin got medium rare. Brittany got medium with a garlic crust. Amanda got hers butterflied and well done. Richard wanted his Pittsburgh-style charred on the outside, cool in the center. Even the college roommate from Chicago had her particular preferences accommodated. Then the caterer approached me. She was young, maybe 22, pretty in a nervous way. She carried a plate, but something in her face told me she did not want to deliver it. She set it down without meeting my eyes and retreated quickly. I looked at my plate. Gray meat, cold, the edges curled and hardened, white fat congealed around it like a frame. This was not steak. This was the leftover roast from the refrigerator. 4 days old, not even reheated properly. I looked up. Brittany was laughing at something her sister said. Kevin was scrolling through his phone between bites. No one was looking at me. No one had looked at me since I arrived. I picked up my knife and fork. I cut into the gray meat. It resisted. I had to saw back and forth like I was cutting rope. Finally, a piece came free. I put it in my mouth. Cold, tough. A sourness underneath that said this should have been thrown away days ago. Across the table, Amanda took a bite of her steak and moaned. "Oh my God, Brittany, this is incredible. Where did you find this butcher?" Brittany smiled her perfect smile. "There is a place in the North End. Kevin and I discovered it last year. Everything is grass-fed, locally sourced. It is not cheap, but you can really taste the quality." I chewed my 4-day-old roast and said nothing. Ethan caught my eye from his seat in the middle of the table. His brow was furrowed. He had seen my plate. I watched him start to say something, but Brittany touched his arm and redirected his attention. "Good boy," she said. "Tell your Aunt Amanda about your AP classes." I finished my meal in silence. Every bite was a small humiliation. Every swallow reminded me of my place in this family. Dessert came next. Brittany's 3 French bakery pies were presented like works of art. She stood at the head of the table and described each one. Bourbon pecan with hand-torched meringue, salted caramel apple with aged cheddar crust, dark chocolate silk with espresso whipped cream. My pie sat untouched on the back counter. No one mentioned it. No one even looked at it. When dessert plates were passed around, mine came last. A sliver so thin I could see the plate through it. A gesture. A symbol. Enough to say I was included, but not enough to actually mean anything. Brittany noticed me examining it. "I hope that portion works for you," she said. "I know you have been trying to watch your figure. I have not watched my figure in 30 years. "Thank you," I said. "It looks wonderful." She smiled and turned back to her guests. At 9 o'clock, people began leaving. Coats were retrieved. Hugs were exchanged. Compliments were lavished. What a beautiful evening. What a perfect meal. "You really outdid yourself, Brittany." Kevin walked his mother-in-law to her car. Brittany escorted her sister to the porch. Everyone was seen off with warmth and attention. When it was my turn to leave, no one noticed me getting my coat. I put on my scarf, my gloves. I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. "Bye, Mom," Kevin called from the living room. He did not get up. "Good night," I said. Brittany appeared in the hallway holding my pie dish. The pie inside was untouched. Not a single slice had been taken. "Do not forget this," she said. I took it from her hands. "Thank you for having me," I said. She nodded. "Drive safe. The roads might be icy." Then she closed the door. I stood on the porch in the cold November air, holding my mother's untouched pie, listening to the muffled laughter inside. The party was continuing. My absence had changed nothing. I walked to my car. The drive home took 45 minutes. I did not turn on the radio. I did not call anyone. I drove through the dark streets watching lit windows pass, each one holding families gathered together, each one representing something I no longer had. I thought about the money, the mortgage payments I had covered for 18 months when Kevin lost his regional sales position. $2,400 a month while Brittany continued her spa appointments and shopping trips. The private school tuition for Ethan. $32,000 a year. I had paid for 4 years, $128,000, so my grandson could attend a school that would teach him to look down on people like me. The down payment on Brittany's car when her lease ended. $22,000 because Kevin insisted buying was smarter than leasing, but they did not have the cash. The kitchen renovation, $47,000, Italian marble, German appliances, French fixtures, a kitchen designed by a woman who never cooked, the vacation to Aruba, the emergency root canal for Kevin, the new roof after the storm, the credit card debt that Brittany called a temporary situation but never paid down. Over and over again I gave, and over again they took. And somewhere along the way, thank you had stopped being part of our vocabulary. I pulled into my driveway at 10:15. My house was dark, small, a 2-bedroom Cape Cod that Jim and I bought 43 years ago when we were young and hopeful and believed our children would always love us. I sat in the car for a long time. Jim would have known what to say. Jim always knew. He had a way of cutting through confusion to find the simple truth underneath. But Jim was gone, 8 years now, and every year since I had become more invisible to the family we built together. I went inside. I put the pie on the kitchen counter. I did not want it anymore. Everything about it felt ruined, a symbol of rejection wrapped in pastry. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark. In the silence, I let myself feel what I had been pushing down all evening. Not anger, not sadness, humiliation, deep and thorough and complete. 74 years old, a lifetime of working and saving and sacrificing. And tonight, I ate cold leftovers while my son's dog got fresh meat. Something inside me moved, not a break, something quieter, a decision beginning to form before I even knew I was making it. I thought about the automatic payments, the ones connected to my checking account, the mortgage that drafted every month, the insurance premium for Brittany's car, the tuition payments to Ethan's school, the credit card that had my name on it as primary account holder, the one they used whenever they wanted something they could not quite afford. All of it ran through me. All of it depended on me, and they had stopped seeing me as a person so gradually that none of us noticed when it happened. I did not make the decision that night, not consciously, but something had started. A countdown none of them knew about. I went to bed without eating anything else. My stomach was sour from the old meat. My heart was heavier than it had been in years. I dreamed of Jim. He was standing in our kitchen, the old one, before the remodel, making coffee the way he always did, slowly, deliberately. He turned to look at me and his mouth moved, but I could not hear the words. I woke at 3 a.m, the dream still clinging to me. His voice echoed somewhere in my mind, something about dignity, something about not letting the people you love make you forget that you are a person too. I lay in the dark until dawn, watching shadows move across the ceiling. When the sun came up, I knew what I was going to do. I showered and dressed carefully. The gray wool coat Jim always said made me look capable. Comfortable shoes. Nothing fancy, but nothing shabby either. I ate a small breakfast. Toast. Tea. I could not manage more. At 8:30, I drove to the bank. The branch opened at 9, but I was early. Old habit. Jim used to say early people control their own time. Late people let others control it for them. I waited in the parking lot watching employees arrive and unlock the doors. At 9:02, I walked inside. "Good morning," the receptionist said. She was young. Everyone was young now. "How can I help you today?" "I need to speak with someone about my accounts," I said. "Several changes need to be made." She typed something. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it is urgent." She looked at me. 74 years old, gray hair, sensible coat. Nothing about me suggested urgency, but something in my face must have communicated what I could not say. "Let me see if David Chen is available," she said. "He handles our priority clients." 10 minutes later, I was sitting in an office across from a young man with kind eyes and careful hands. He offered me coffee. I declined. "Mrs. Sullivan," he said, "what can I help you with today?" I placed my folder on his desk, the folder I had pulled from my filing cabinet at 6 that morning. Every statement, every automatic payment authorization, every financial connection to my son and his wife. "I need to cancel all of these," I said. "Every automatic transfer, every payment, everything connected to anyone other than myself." He opened the folder. His expression stayed professional, but I saw his eyebrows lift at the amounts, at the years these payments had been running. "Mrs. Sullivan," he said carefully, "these are significant changes. Some of these accounts have secondary authorized users. Your son appears to have access to several of them." "I know," I said. "I want his access revoked." A pause. "May I ask what prompted this decision?" I thought about Brittany's smile as she handed me my untouched pie. I thought about Kevin not getting up to walk me to the door. I thought about the gray meat in the mismatched chair and the decades of money flowing out of my account into their lives with nothing flowing back. I spent Thanksgiving eating 4-day-old leftovers, I said, while everyone else at the table had fresh steak, including the dog. David Chen did not respond immediately. Then he nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. For the next hour, we went through every account, every payment, every connection, the mortgage payment, canceled, the car insurance, canceled, the tuition, stopped, the credit card, frozen, Kevin's secondary access, revoked, the monthly expense transfer, terminated. One by one, I severed every financial cord that bound me to them. David processed each change without comment. He explained each form. He answered each question. He treated me like a person making a decision, not a confused old woman who needed protection from herself. When we finished, he printed confirmation documents for everything. "Mrs. Sullivan," he said, "these changes will take effect within 24 hours. Some accounts may notify the other parties before the next billing cycle." "I understand." He hesitated. Then he said something that surprised me. "Whatever brought you here today, I hope it works out. You seem like someone who has been carrying a heavy load for too long." I looked at this young man who had just helped me dismantle 6 years of quiet servitude. "I have been," I said, "but not anymore." I drove home slowly, taking streets I had not traveled in years. Past the elementary school where Kevin learned to read, past the church where Jim and I were married, past the hospital where I gave birth to my children. This town held everything, every joy, every sorrow, every sacrifice that had led to this moment. By the time I got home, it was nearly noon. I made myself lunch, not leftovers, a fresh sandwich, a bowl of soup from a can I opened myself. Food I chose because I wanted it. I ate at the kitchen table looking out at Jim's garden. The roses he planted were dormant now, but they would bloom again in spring. Life continues. It always continues. For the first time in years, I felt like I was sitting in my own life instead of passing through someone else's. The afternoon passed quietly. I organized photographs. I read a chapter of a book I had been neglecting. At 3 o'clock, I called my daughter Jenny in Seattle. "Mom," she said when she answered, "is everything okay?" "You sound different. Different how I do not know. Lighter, maybe? Did something happen?" I smiled into the phone. "Not yet. But it will." Around 4 o'clock, my neighbor Linda knocked on the door. She had brought cookies the way she always did after holidays. "Maggie," she said as I let her in, "how was Thanksgiving at Kevin's?" We sat at my kitchen table with tea and her snickerdoodles. "Linda," I said, "I need to tell you something." She looked at me with those sharp eyes. 68 years old and nothing got past her. I told her everything. The cold leftovers, the chair from the hallway, the untouched pie, the years of payments no one acknowledged, the morning at the bank. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she set down her cup. "Maggie Sullivan," she said, "I have been waiting for this day for years. You knew everyone except you. Or maybe you knew too. You just were not ready to see it." I stared at her. Your son married a woman who treats you like an ATM? Linda continued, and Kevin let it happen because fighting was harder than surrendering. That is not a family. That is an arrangement, and you have been paying while they have been collecting. I felt tears building, not from sadness, from recognition, from hearing someone else say what I had been too afraid to admit. I canceled everything today, I told her. Every payment, every account, every connection. Linda smiled slowly. Good for you. It is about damn time. She stayed for another hour. We talked about Jim, about the old days, about what it means to build a life and watch parts of it drift away without your permission. After she left, I sat alone in the gathering dark. Tomorrow the payments would stop. Tomorrow Kevin and Brittany would notice. Tomorrow the calls would start. But tonight, I had peace. I went to bed early and slept better than I had in months. The phone rang at 6:47 the next morning. I was already awake sitting in the kitchen with my coffee. I looked at the screen. Kevin. I let it ring. Voicemail. Then another call. Then a text. Kevin. Mom, something is wrong with the credit card. Call me. I took a sip of my coffee. Another text. Kevin card declined at the gas station. What is going on? Then Brittany's number. I watched it ring through. I finished my coffee, poured another cup, made toast with real butter. The texts kept coming. Kevin. Mom, are you there, Kevin? Bank says something changed with the accounts, Kevin. We need to talk. Call me back. Brittany Helen. The auto pay for my insurance bounced. Did you do something to the account? I read each message. I did not respond. By 9 o'clock, the tone had changed. Kevin, Mom, this is serious. Mortgage payment got rejected. They are charging a late fee. Brittany. I was at the pharmacy and my card declined. In front of people. Do you understand how humiliating that was? Humiliating. She was worried about humiliation. After what she had served me at her table. I put my phone face down. The calls continued all morning. I let them go to voicemail. I did not listen to the messages. I could imagine every word. Around 11, the doorbell rang. I looked through the window. Brittany's sister's car was in my driveway. Amanda was standing on my porch with her arms crossed. I opened the door. Mrs. Sullivan, she said. Her voice was tight. Kevin asked me to check on you. I am fine. She shifted weight. Look, Brittany called me this morning hysterical. She said all their payments bounced. She said you changed the accounts. I did. Amanda stared at me. Why would you do that? Because I am tired of being invisible, I said. Because I spent Thanksgiving eating leftovers, meant for the garbage while everyone else had fresh steak. Because I have given your sister and her husband over $300,000 in 6 years, and the only thanks I get is a chair pulled from the hallway. Amanda's mouth opened, then closed. Mrs. Sullivan, she said quietly. I did not know. No one knew, because no one was looking. She stood there a moment longer, then she nodded. For what it is worth, she said. I'm not sure I would do anything different. She left. I closed the door and returned to my window. The afternoon brought more messages, more calls. The desperation was escalating. Kevin, Mom, the bank says your signature was removed from everything. You cannot do this without warning. Brittany, this is unacceptable, Helen. We have bills. We have a child in school. You cannot just cut us off. I read her message twice. We have a child in school, as if Ethan were some natural disaster rather than a choice they made while expecting me to pay. At 3 o'clock, my phone rang with a different number. Not Kevin, not Brittany, Ethan. I answered immediately. Grandma. His voice was thin, worried, a 16-year-old trapped in the middle of adults destroying everything. Hello, sweetheart. Are you okay? Mom and Dad are freaking out. Dad keeps calling you, but you do not answer. Mom is screaming at someone from the bank. I am fine, I told him. Everything is fine. A pause. Did you really do it? He asked. Cut them off. I made some changes. Changes that should have happened a long time ago. Another pause. Is it because of Thanksgiving? Because of how they treated you? My chest tightened. Partly, I noticed he said quietly. The leftovers, the chair. I wanted to say something, but you do not have to apologize. None of this is your fault. "But your school," he said. "I know you have been paying. They never told me, but I figured it out." I heard him take a breath. "Grandma, if you have been paying for my school and they never even thanked you, then I would rather go to public school than keep taking your money." Tears filled my eyes. "You are a good kid, Ethan. You know that I learned it from you. And from Grandpa. Mom tells me stories sometimes about him, when she is not being, herself." I laughed. A wet laugh. "I love you, Ethan. I love you too, Grandma. And whatever happens, I am on your side." After we hung up, I held the phone for a long time. One good thing, one bright thread in all this unraveling. My grandson still had a heart. The sun was setting when the car pulled into my driveway. I knew it was Kevin before he got out. The aggressive driving, the sharp turn, like the road owed him something. He marched to my door and knocked hard enough to rattle the frame. I did not rush. I finished my tea, set down my cup, walked to the door. When I opened it, Kevin stood there with his jaw clenched and his eyes wild. "Mom, we need to talk. Now." I stepped aside. He did not sit. He paced my living room like something caged. "What is going on?" he demanded. "I have been calling all day. Brittany is falling apart. The mortgage bounced. The insurance bounced. Everything bounced. The bank says you removed my access. They say you canceled every payment connected to your account." "That is correct." He stopped pacing, stared at me. "What do you mean that is correct? I mean, I did it. Deliberately. This morning." "But why?" His voice cracked. "We depend on those payments. You know that. We have the house, the school, the cars. You cannot just pull everything out from under us without warning." I looked at my son, 48 years old, gray at the temples, lines around his eyes. He looked like Jim in some lights, but Jim would never have stood in my living room demanding money. "Sit down," I said. He hesitated, then dropped onto the couch. I sat across from him in Jim's chair. "Kevin," I said, "do you know how much money I have given you over the past 6 years?" He shifted. "I mean, you have helped us out. We appreciate it. But we are family. That is what family does. Give me a number. I do not know exactly." $347,000. His face went pale. "That is how much I said. Mortgage payments, car payments, tuition, renovations, vacations, credit cards, medical bills. I kept records. Mom, I did not realize." "No, you did not, because you never asked. You assumed the money would always appear. You assumed I would always be there filling the gaps." His mouth opened and closed. "And do you know what I got in return? Cold leftovers? A chair from the hallway, a pie no one touched, a seat so far from the family I might as well have been in another room." He looked at his hands. "I am not angry, Kevin. I am just finished." "What does that mean?" "It means you are 48 years old. It is time you learned to stand on your own. It is time Brittany learned that money does not materialize because she wants a new kitchen. It is time you both remembered that I am a person, not a bank account with a heartbeat." He sat in silence. "Mom," he finally said, "I am sorry. I did not mean for things to become like this. How did you mean for them to become?" He did not answer. "I love you," I said. "I have always loved you. But love does not mean disappearing. And that is what I have been doing. Disappearing into your needs, your bills, your problems, while you forgot I exist outside of what I can provide." His eyes were wet. "What do you want me to do? Go home, figure out how to pay your own bills, talk to your wife about who you want to be, and remember that your mother is still alive, still here, still deserving of a warm plate and a real seat at the table." He stood slowly. His shoulders were lower than when he arrived. "And Kevin," I said, "next time you invite me to dinner, I expect to be treated like family, not like something you scraped from the back of the refrigerator." He walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the knob. "Mom, yes, I really am sorry. Sorry is a word. Show me what it means." He left. I watched his taillights disappear down the street. Then I locked the door and returned to my chair. The house was quiet. The night was cold. but something inside me felt warmer than it had in years. I had done it. Now came the hard part, waiting to see if they could become the family I once believed we were. I was not paying for that privilege anymore. I made myself dinner. A real dinner. Steak from my own freezer cooked exactly the way I like it. Medium rare, hot. I ate it at my own table in my own chair in my own house. Every bite was mine. Around 9 o'clock, just as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I did not recognize. I opened it. The message was from Brittany's phone, but the words were not hers. Someone else had typed them. Someone who had found something they were not supposed to find. The message contained a screenshot. A photograph of a document. It was an email. From Kevin to Brittany, dated 3 months ago. The subject line read, "Mom's house, timeline for conversation." I read the email twice, then 3 times. My son had been planning something involving my house, something involving power of attorney, something involving phrases like cognitive decline and early signs and better to move now before she becomes suspicious. I sat down slowly. My hands were shaking. The phone buzzed again. Another message from the same number. Thought you should know. Ethan. I stared at those 2 words. My grandson had found this. My grandson had sent it to me. My grandson had chosen sides. And my son, my Kevin, had been planning to take my house. Not because he needed it, because he wanted it. And he wanted it before I could stop him. I set the phone down on the table. The warmth I had felt earlier was gone now. In its place was something colder, something harder. This was not about leftovers anymore. This was about everything I had left. And I was not going to lose it without a fight. I read the email 7 times before my eyes stopped moving. Kevin's words burned into me like a brand. Timeline for conversation. Cognitive decline. Better to move now before she becomes suspicious. My own son had been planning to take my house. Not ask for it, not discuss it. Take it. Using words like decline and early signs to justify what he wanted to do. Making me sound like a problem to be managed rather than a mother to be loved. I sat at my kitchen table until midnight, staring at the phone screen until the words blurred and reformed and blurred again. The house creaked around me the way it always did at night, settling into itself, holding its history in every beam and floorboard. Jim built the back porch with his own hands. We raised 2 children in these rooms. I learned to be a wife here, a mother here, a widow here. And my son wanted to take it from me before I became suspicious. Suspicious of what? Of him I should have been suspicious years ago. The next morning I woke before dawn. I had not really slept. My body had lain in bed, but my mind had paced the halls all night, picking up memories and examining them for signs I had missed. The time Kevin asked me to add his name to the deed for tax purposes. I had said no, and he had not mentioned it again. The time Brittany suggested I might be more comfortable in a smaller place, something easier to maintain. I had laughed and changed the subject. The time Kevin brought paperwork to Thanksgiving dinner 2 years ago, something about estate planning, and I had put it aside because the turkey was burning. They had been circling for years. I just had not wanted to see it. At 6 o'clock, I called my daughter. Jenny answered on the 3rd ring, her voice rough with sleep. "Mom, it is 3 in the morning here. What is wrong?" Everything I said. I told her about the email, about the phrases Kevin had used, about the timeline he had created with his wife to convince me to sign over my house before I realized what was happening. Jenny was quiet for a long time. "That son of a bitch," she finally said. "Jenny, no, Mom. I am allowed to say it. He is my brother, and I love him, but he is also a son of a bitch, and right now I am saying it out loud. Power of attorney. Cognitive decline. You are sharper than anyone I know. You do your own taxes. You beat me at Scrabble every single time. There is nothing declining about you. I know. So what are you going to do?" I thought about it. The anger was still there, burning low and steady in my chest, but something else had joined it overnight. Something colder, more calculated. "I am going to protect myself," I said. "And then I am going to find out exactly how far this goes." After we hung up, I made coffee and sat with the folder I had pulled from my desk. Every document related to my house. The original deed from 43 years ago. The refinancing paperwork from when Jim got sick. the insurance policies, the property tax records. Everything was in order. Everything was in my name alone. Kevin had no legal claim to anything, but he had been planning to create one. At 8 o'clock, I called Stanley Whitmore. He had been my lawyer for 15 years, ever since Jim passed, and I needed someone to help me navigate the estate. Stanley was 70 years old, sharp as a tack, and he did not tolerate nonsense. "Maggie," he said when his assistant put me through, "I was just thinking about you. How was your Thanksgiving?" "Complicated," I said. "I need to see you today." He heard something in my voice. His tone shifted immediately. "Come at 10, he said. "I will clear my schedule." I showered and dressed carefully. The gray coat again. It had become my armor now. The coat that made me look capable. The coat that reminded me I was not a confused old woman waiting to be managed. Stanley's office was in a brick building downtown, the kind with creaking floors and tall windows that let in pale winter light. His assistant showed me in immediately. He rose when I entered. "Maggie, sit down. Tell me what happened." I sat across from him and placed my phone on his desk. The screenshot was still on the screen. He read it slowly. His face did not change, but I saw his jaw tighten. "When did you receive this?" "Last night, around 9 o'clock. "Who sent it?" "My grandson. Ethan. He found it on his mother's phone." Stanley nodded slowly. "And this email is from your son Kevin to his wife Brittany?" "Yes." He read it again. "Timeline for conversation. Cognitive decline. Early signs. Better to move now." "Maggie," he said carefully, "do you understand what this suggests?" "I understand exactly what it suggests. My son has been planning to have me declared incompetent so he can take control of my assets, specifically my house." Stanley leaned back in his chair. "That is a serious accusation. It is a serious email." He was quiet for a moment. Then he picked up his pen. "All right," he said. "Let us talk about protection. First, we need to ensure that no one can challenge your competency. I'm going to recommend you see a doctor this week. Get a full cognitive evaluation. Something recent. Something documented. Something that proves without question that you are of sound mind." "I can do that." "Second," he continued, "we need to review your estate documents, your will, any powers of attorney you may have signed in the past, anything that gives anyone else access to your decisions. I have not signed anything giving Kevin power of attorney." "Good. But we should verify that nothing exists that you might have forgotten about. Sometimes documents get buried. Sometimes people sign things at family gatherings without reading them carefully." I thought about Kevin's paperwork from 2 Thanksgivings ago, the papers I had set aside because the turkey was burning. I might have signed something I admitted. Stanley's expression sharpened. "Tell me." 2 years ago, Kevin brought documents to Thanksgiving. He said it was estate planning. I was distracted. I may have signed without reading carefully. "Do you have copies?" "I do not think so." He wrote something on his legal pad. "We need to find out what you signed. I will request copies from the county recorder's office. If Kevin filed anything, it will be there. And if he did file something, then we can test it. Based on this email, we have evidence that any documents were obtained under false pretenses. He was planning to use claims of cognitive decline to justify his actions. If he made those same claims when you signed the documents, that is fraud." The word hung in the air between us. Fraud. My son. My Kevin. "There is one more thing," Stanley said. "You need to consider what kind of relationship you want with your son going forward. Whatever we do legally will have consequences personally. He may never forgive you for fighting back." I looked at him steadily. He served me 4-day-old leftovers at Thanksgiving and sat his dog in a better position than me, I said. "He has been draining my bank account for 6 years while treating me like furniture, and now I find out he has been planning to take my house by claiming I'm losing my mind. Whatever forgiveness might have existed between us, Stanley, it is not mine to give anymore." Stanley nodded slowly. "Then let us begin." We spent the next 2 hours reviewing everything. My will, which left my assets split between Kevin and Jenny, but gave Jenny the house specifically because she had never asked me for anything. My medical directives, which named Jenny as my healthcare proxy. My financial accounts, all of which I had already frozen. When we finished, Stanley walked me to the door. "Maggie," he said quietly, "I have known you for 15 years. You are one of the sharpest people I have ever met. Whatever your son thinks he knows about cognitive decline, he is wrong, and we are going to prove it." I drove home feeling something I had not felt in years. Not anger, not sadness, purpose. The messages from Kevin and Brittany had continued while I was at Stanley's office. I scrolled through them in my driveway. Kevin. "Mom, please call me. We need to talk about this." Kevin. "I do not understand why you are doing this." Kevin. "Whatever I did wrong, we can fix it. Just talk to me." Brittany. "Helen, this is getting ridiculous. You are hurting Ethan with this behavior. Is that what you want?" I stopped at that one. Read it twice. She was using my grandson as a weapon now, claiming I was hurting him by protecting myself from them. I typed a response, the first one since this began. Brittany, I know about the email. I know about the timeline. I know what you and Kevin have been planning. Do not contact me again unless you are ready to tell the truth. I sent it before I could change my mind. Then I went inside and waited. The response came 40 minutes later, not from Brittany, from Kevin. His car pulled into my driveway with the same aggressive speed as before. He did not turn off the engine for a long moment. I watched him through the window, sitting behind the wheel, staring at my house. His house in his mind. The house he thought he was going to take from me. Finally, he got out. He walked to my door slowly this time. No pounding, no demands. He knocked 3 times and waited. I opened the door. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, his hair uncombed. The arrogance that usually armored him was gone. "Mom," he said, "can I come in?" "That depends. Are you here to lie to me again?" He flinched. "I deserve that," he said quietly. "Yes, you do." He stood on my porch, hands in his pockets, looking more like the boy he used to be than the man he had become. "I know you saw the email," he said. "I did. I can explain. I doubt that." He took a breath. "Mom, please. I know how it looks, but it is not what you think." I crossed my arms. "Then tell me what it is. Tell me why my son was emailing his wife about cognitive decline and timelines. Tell me why you were planning to move before I got suspicious. Tell me all of it, Kevin, and for once in your life, tell me the truth." He looked at the ground. When he looked back up, his eyes were wet. "Can I come inside?" "Please." I stepped back and let him enter. We sat in the living room, the same positions as before, him on the couch, me in Jim's chair. But everything was different now. The pretense was gone. "Start from the beginning," I said. Kevin rubbed his face with both hands. "It started about a year ago," he said. "Brittany and I were having money problems, real problems, not the kind we told you about. Worse." "What kind of problems?" He hesitated. "Kevin, the truth. I made some bad investments," he admitted. "I thought I was being smart. A colleague at work told me about this opportunity, cryptocurrency thing. I put in more than I should have, a lot more." "How much?" He did not answer. "Kevin, how much?" "Almost 200,000. I stared at him. From where I asked. "You did not have that kind of money." His silence told me everything. From the accounts, I said, the ones connected to me. He nodded slowly. "You were supposed to pay it back," he said quickly. "That was the plan. The investment was supposed to triple in 6 months. I was going to put everything back before you noticed. But it did not triple. No, it disappeared. The whole thing was a scam. By the time I realized the money was gone, I sat very still. "So you stole $200,000 from me," I said. "And then you decided the way to fix it was to take my house. That is not—" He stopped, ran his hand through his hair. "Brittany's idea, the house thing. She said we needed to secure our future. She said you were getting older, and someone was going to have to make decisions for you eventually. She said it would be easier if we got ahead of it. Easier for who? For everyone." He looked at me desperately. "Mom, I know it sounds terrible, but Brittany framed it like we were protecting you, like we were making sure you would be taken care of when I started to decline. Yes, do I seem like I am declining to you?" He was quiet for a long time. "No, He finally whispered, "You do not." Then why would you believe her? Why would you write that email? Why would you make plans behind my back to take away my home and my independence? He did not answer. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice was steady. You want to know what cognitive decline looks like, Kevin? It does not look like me. It looks like a son who cannot tell the difference between his wife's ambition and his mother's reality. It looks like a man who steals from the woman who raised him and then convinces himself he was doing her a favor. "Mom, get out." He rose slowly. "Please," he said. "I made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But I never wanted to hurt you. You did not want to hurt me," I asked. "You let your wife serve me garbage while your dog ate better. You let her put me in a chair from the hallway like I was an afterthought. You stole my money, planned to steal my house, and you are standing in my living room saying you never wanted to hurt me." He had no answer. "Get out," I said again. "And do not come back until you are ready to fix what you broke, not with words, not with apologies, with action." He walked to the door. "Mom," he said without turning around, "I do love you. I know that does not mean much right now, but I do." I watched him leave without responding. After his car disappeared, I sat down in Jim's chair and cried. Not because I was sad, not because I was angry, because I was mourning. Mourning the son I thought I had raised, mourning the family I thought I had built, mourning all the years I had spent giving everything I had to people who saw me as nothing more than a source. The crying lasted maybe 10 minutes. Then I dried my eyes and picked up my phone. I called Stanley. He answered on the first ring. "Maggie, what happened?" "Kevin was just here," I said. "He admitted to taking money from my accounts, almost $200,000. He said it was for an investment that turned out to be a scam." Stanley was silent for a moment. "Did he say this was before or after you froze the accounts?" "Before. He took it over the past year without telling me." "That is theft," Stanley said quietly. "You understand that I understand. What do you want to do?" I thought about Kevin's face, the desperation, the shame, the boy I used to rock to sleep. "I want options," I said. "All of them. And then I want time to decide. I can give you that." "But Maggie, the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to pursue legal action if that is what you choose." "I know, but he is still my son. I need to be sure." After we hung up, I made tea and sat by the window. The sun was setting. Another day ending. Another piece of my old life falling away. Around 7 o'clock, another car pulled into my driveway. Not Kevin's. Smaller. A green Honda I did not recognize. Jenny got out. I was at the door before she reached the porch. She had flown from Seattle. 5 hours in the air. She had not told me she was coming. "Mom," she said, and pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. "What are you doing here? What do you think?" She pulled back and looked at me with fierce eyes. "My brother is trying to steal your house. You think I'm going to sit in Seattle and do nothing?" We went inside. She dropped her bag by the door and walked through the house, slowly touching things. The photographs on the mantel, the books on the shelves, Jim's chair. "I miss this place," she said quietly. "It missed you too." She turned to face me. "Okay. Tell me everything. Start from Thanksgiving and do not leave anything out." So I told her. The cold leftovers, the chair from the hallway, the untouched pie, the decision at the bank, the phone calls and messages, the confrontation with Kevin, the email from Ethan, the meeting with Stanley, Kevin's confession about the stolen money. Jenny listened without interrupting. Her face grew harder with each revelation. When I finished, she shook her head slowly. "I knew he was selfish," she said. "I knew Brittany was a snake. But this planning to have you declared incompetent, stealing your savings, this is beyond anything I imagined. He says he loves me." Jenny laughed bitterly. "Love does not steal $200,000 and plan to take your house, Mom. Love does not serve you leftovers while feeding the dog prime cuts. Whatever Kevin thinks he feels, it is not love. It is ownership. He thinks he owns you the way he owns his car or his TV, something to use until it breaks. That is harsh. It is true." She sat down across from me, her expression softening. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "Forget what is right or wrong or legal. What do you actually want?" I thought about it. The question no one had asked me in years. What did I want? "I want my life back," I said slowly. "I want to be seen as a person, not a resource. I want to know that when I die, my house goes to someone who loved me for who I was, not what I could provide. And I want Kevin to understand what he did, really understand, not just say the words." Jenny nodded. "Those are reasonable things to want. But Mom, you might not get all of them. Kevin might never understand. He might keep believing Brittany's version of reality until the day he dies. I know. So what happens then? Then I live my life without him in it, the way he has been living his life without really having me in it for years." Jenny reached over and took my hand. "I am here," she said. "Whatever you need, however long it takes. I am here." We stayed up late talking about Jim, about the early years when Kevin and Jenny were small and the house was full of noise and laughter, about how things change so gradually you do not notice until you are standing in the middle of wreckage wondering where everything went. Around midnight, Jenny went to the guest room. I stayed in the living room a while longer, looking at the photographs on the mantel. Kevin at 6 years old, covered in flour, helping me make pie. Kevin at 12, holding a baseball trophy, grinning like the world belonged to him. I wondered when that boy had disappeared. I wondered if he was still in there somewhere, buried under layers of disappointment and bad decisions, and a wife who taught him to see people as tools. I wondered if I would ever see him again. The next morning I woke to the smell of coffee. Jenny was in the kitchen, already dressed, making breakfast. "Mom," she said when she saw me. "Sit down." I made eggs. We ate together at the kitchen table. The first meal I had shared with family since Thanksgiving. Real family. Family that saw me as a person. "I have an idea," Jenny said between bites. "About Kevin. I am listening. You said Stanley mentioned getting a cognitive evaluation, something to prove you are competent." "Yes. I have an appointment next week." "Good. But I think we should do more than that. I think we should document everything. Your daily routine, your mental sharpness, your ability to manage your own affairs, not just for the legal case, but for Kevin. So he cannot hide behind Brittany's lies anymore." "What do you mean?" "I mean we show him who you really are. Not the mother he has turned into a stereotype in his head. The real you. Sharp. Capable. Independent. We make it impossible for him to pretend you need managing." I thought about it. The idea had merit. But something else occurred to me. What if it does not change anything I asked? What if he sees the evidence and still chooses Brittany's version? Jenny shrugged. "Then at least you will know. And knowing is better than wondering." She was right about that. The cognitive evaluation happened the following Tuesday. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a neurologist Stanley had recommended, put me through 3 hours of tests. Memory, problem solving, language, spatial reasoning. At the end, she sat me down in her office and smiled. "Mrs. Sullivan," she said, "your results are excellent. Better than most people your age, better than many people 20 years younger. Whatever concerns your family may have expressed about cognitive decline, they are unfounded." She gave me a written report to take home, 12 pages documenting every test, every score, every conclusion. I read it in the parking lot before driving home. The words swam a little because I was crying again, not from sadness, from vindication. That evening, Jenny and I sat at the kitchen table with the report between us. "This is ammunition," Jenny said. "This proves Kevin was lying, or that Brittany was lying and Kevin was believing her. Either way, it proves you are not what they said you were. Will it matter to him?" "Maybe not, but it will matter to a judge if it comes to that." I looked at my daughter. She had Jim's determination, his willingness to fight for what was right, even when fighting was hard. "Thank you," I said, "for being here, for believing me." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You are my mother," she said. "You taught me everything I know about standing up for myself. Did you think I would forget that when you needed it most?" The next day, I made a decision. I picked up the phone and called Kevin. He answered immediately, his voice tight with hope. "Mom, I have something you need to see," I said. "Come to the house tonight. 7 o'clock. Come alone." "Okay," he said quickly. "I will be there." "Mom, does this mean—" "It means I have something to show you, that is all." I hung up before he could say anything else. At 7 o'clock exactly, Kevin's car pulled into the driveway. He walked to the door, slowly looking around as if expecting an ambush. When I opened the door, he flinched at the sight of Jenny standing behind me. "Jenny," he said carefully, "I did not know you were here." "Surprise," she said flatly. He stepped inside. The three of us stood in the hallway, the air thick with years of unspoken things. "Come into the living room," I said. "Sit down." He sat. Jenny and I sat across from him. The coffee table between us held a single folder. "Kevin," I said, "your wife has been telling you I am experiencing cognitive decline, that I am losing my sharpness, that someone needs to step in and make decisions for me before I become incapable of making them myself." He opened his mouth to speak. "Do not interrupt," I said. "I am not finished." He closed his mouth. "I went to a neurologist this week, Dr. Sarah Mitchell. She specializes in cognitive assessment. She put me through 3 hours of testing. And this," I pushed the folder toward him, "is her report." He picked it up slowly, opened it, began to read. I watched his face as he went through the pages, the confusion, the disbelief, the slow dawning of something that might have been shame. When he finished, he set the folder down. His hands were trembling. "Mom," he said quietly, "I did not know." "What did you think you knew?" Brittany said. He stopped, swallowed. "She said she noticed things, times when you seemed confused, times when you repeated yourself. She said it was classic early-stage decline. She said we needed to act before it got worse." Jenny leaned forward. "And you believed her, without ever asking Mom, without talking to a doctor. You just took your wife's word that your mother was losing her mind." Kevin said nothing. I looked at my son, 48 years old, still capable of breaking my heart. "Kevin," I said, "I want you to understand something. I am not angry about the money. Money can be replaced. I am not even angry about the house. Houses are just buildings. What I am angry about is this." I pointed at the folder. "You were willing to believe I was broken. You were willing to let your wife convince you that the woman who raised you, who sacrificed for you, who gave you everything she had, was becoming incapable. And you never once asked me if it was true." He looked at the floor. "That is what hurts, Kevin. Not the stealing, not the schemes. The fact that you stopped seeing me as a person. You saw what Brittany wanted you to see, and what she wanted you to see was someone you could manage, someone whose life you could take over, someone who existed to serve your needs instead of her own." The silence stretched between us. Finally, Kevin looked up. His eyes were wet. "I am sorry," he said. "I know that word does not mean anything anymore, but I do not know what else to say." "Say you understand," I told him. "Say you will never let anyone convince you that your mother is less than she is. Say you will be a different man from this moment forward." He nodded slowly. "And Kevin," I added, "yes, fire your wife as your financial advisor, because if you keep listening to her, you are going to lose a lot more than my trust." He almost laughed. "Almost. I know," he said quietly. "I know." Jenny stood up. "I think that is enough for tonight," she said. "Kevin, you should go home. Think about everything you heard. And tomorrow maybe we can start figuring out how to move forward." He rose slowly. At the door, he turned back to look at me. "Mom," he said, "I really am sorry. Not just the word. I mean it." "I know you do," I said. "Now show me." He left. Jenny and I stood in the doorway watching his taillights disappear. "Do you think he will change?" she asked. "I do not know," I admitted. "But I know this. I gave him the truth tonight. What he does with it is up to him." We went back inside. The house was quiet around us, peaceful in a way it had not been in weeks. I made tea. We sat in the kitchen together, mother and daughter, watching the steam rise. Mom, Jenny said quietly, "Whatever happens with Kevin, I want you to know something. What you did good. Raising us, building this life, all of it. You did good." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you, baby," I whispered. "That means more than you know." She smiled. "I know. That is why I said it." That night I slept better than I had in months. The war was not over, but I had won the first battle, and I had learned something important along the way. I was not too old to fight for myself. I was just old enough to know exactly how to do it. The peace lasted exactly 3 days. Jenny had gone back to Seattle on Tuesday morning, promising to return if I needed her. We hugged at the door for a long time, neither of us wanting to let go. She had been my anchor through the worst of it, and watching her car disappear down the street left me feeling smaller somehow. But I reminded myself that I had survived 74 years of living. I could survive a few more days alone. On Friday morning, the doorbell rang at 7:15. I was still in my robe coffee cup in hand, watching the morning news without really seeing it. The sound startled me. No one came to my door at 7:15. Not the mailman, not Linda, not anyone with good intentions. I set down my cup and walked to the door. Through the window, I saw Brittany. She was standing on my porch in a cream-colored coat, her hair perfect, her makeup flawless, her expression arranged into something that was probably supposed to look concerned, but came across as calculated. Behind her, parked at the curb, was her white Mercedes, the one I had helped pay for. I opened the door but did not invite her in. "Brittany," I said. "Helen." Her voice was smooth, practiced. "We need to talk." "Do we?" She smiled tightly. "I think you know we do. May I come in?" I thought about saying no. I thought about closing the door in her face and going back to my coffee, but something told me this conversation needed to happen. Whatever she had come to say, I needed to hear it. 5 minutes, I said. Then you leave. She walked past me into the house, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She looked around the living room with an expression I recognized. Appraisal. She was calculating the value of everything she saw. "Please," I said. "Sit down." She chose the couch. I took Jim's chair across from her. "I assume Kevin told you about our conversation," I said. "He did." She crossed her legs and folded her hands in her lap. A posture of control. "Helen, I want to clear up some misunderstandings." "Misunderstandings?" "Yes." She leaned forward slightly. "I know how that email must have looked, but I need you to understand the context. Kevin and I have been under tremendous pressure. Financial pressure. When people are stressed, they say things they do not mean. They explore options they would never actually pursue. Options like having me declared incompetent." Her smile flickered. "That was never a serious plan. It was just conversation, speculation. You know how couples talk when they are worried about the future?" "I do know how couples talk," I said. "My husband and I were married for 41 years. And in all that time, we never once discussed stealing from our parents or taking their homes." Brittany's expression hardened slightly. Then she recovered. "I understand why you are upset," she said, "but I think you are overreacting. Kevin loves you. He would never do anything to hurt you. And neither would I." I stared at her. "Brittany," I said slowly, "you served me 4-day-old leftovers at Thanksgiving while everyone else had fresh steak. You put me in a chair from the hallway like I was an afterthought. You have been spending my money for 6 years without ever once saying thank you. And now you sit in my living room and tell me I am overreacting." She did not flinch. "Those were misunderstandings too," she said smoothly. "The leftovers were an accident. The seating was cramped. The money was always meant to be repaid. You are seeing patterns where there are none." I shook my head slowly. "You know what amazes me about you, Brittany? Your ability to look someone in the eye and lie without blinking. You have been lying to Kevin for years, lying about me, making him think I was declining, making him believe he needed to protect the family from his own mother. That is not what happened. I have the email. The email was taken out of context. Then give me the context," I said. "Explain to me the context in which my son writes to his wife about cognitive decline timelines and moving before I get suspicious. I would love to hear the innocent explanation for that." For the first time, something shifted in her face, a crack in the armor. "Helen," she said. Her voice was different now, less smooth, more urgent. "You do not understand our situation. We are drowning. The mortgage is underwater. Kevin's investments failed. We owe people money that we do not have. And yes, I suggested we look at options, all options, including your estate. My estate. You have a house worth over $400,000, she continued. You have savings, you have assets, and you are 74 years old. Someday, probably sooner than any of us want to think about, you are going to need care. Someone is going to have to make decisions. Why not plan for that now? Why not make sure the transition is smooth? Because it is my house, I said, my savings, my life, and I am not dead yet. She pressed her lips together. I stood up. Your 5 minutes are up, I said. Get out of my house. She stood too, but she did not move toward the door. Instead, she took a step closer to me. Helen, she said quietly, I came here to make peace, to explain, to find a way forward that works for everyone. But if you insist on being difficult, then we will have to explore other options. Are you threatening me? I am stating facts. Kevin is your son. Ethan is your grandson. If you want to be part of their lives going forward, you are going to have to find a way to work with me. Shutting me out is not an option. I looked at this woman, this person who had entered my family and slowly, systematically turned my son against me, who had spent my money and eaten at my table and smiled at my face while planning to take everything I had. Get out, I said again. Think about what I said, Helen. Think about Ethan. Think about Christmas. Think about all the family events you will miss if you keep pushing us away. I walked to the front door and opened it. Goodbye, Brittany. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she picked up her purse and walked past me onto the porch. You are making a mistake, she said without turning around. A big one. I closed the door. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But underneath the fear and the anger, there was something else. Satisfaction. I had faced her. I had not backed down. I had told her the truth, and she could not handle it. I went back to my coffee. It was cold now, but I drank it anyway. 30 minutes later, my phone rang. Kevin, I answered. Mom, he said. His voice was strained. Brittany just called me. She said you threw her out. I did not throw her out. I asked her to leave, and she left. She said you were hostile, aggressive. She is worried about you. I laughed. The sound surprised me. Kevin, I said. Your wife came to my house uninvited at 7 a.m. to convince me that I should hand over my estate for the good of the family. When I declined, she threatened to cut me off from my grandson. And now she is worried about me. He was silent. Do you see what she does? I asked. Do you see how she twists things? She comes into my home, makes demands, issues, threats, and then calls you to say I am the problem. This is what she has been doing for years, Kevin. This is why you believed I was declining. Because she told you I was. Over and over. Until you stopped trusting your own eyes. Mom, you do not think what I interrupted. That she would manipulate you, that she would lie. Kevin, she admitted to me just now that she sees my house as an asset to be acquired. She talked about my estate like I was already gone. Is that the woman you want to believe? More silence. I love Brittany, he finally said. I know she has flaws, but she is my wife, the mother of my child, and I am your mother, I said. The woman who gave birth to you, who raised you, who sacrificed for you, who gave you everything I had. Does that count for nothing? Of course it counts. Then act like it. I hung up. The rest of the day passed in a blur of restlessness. I could not sit still. I cleaned rooms that did not need cleaning. I reorganized cabinets that were already organized. I called Jenny twice just to hear her voice. The second time she made me promise to stop worrying. Mom, she said, you did the right thing. Brittany is a bully, and you stood up to her. That is exactly what you should have done. She threatened to keep me from Ethan. She cannot do that. Ethan is 16. He has his own phone, his own car. She cannot stop him from seeing you unless she literally locks him in his room. What if Kevin lets her? Then Kevin is weaker than I thought. But Mom, I do not think he will. Not after everything you showed him. He is confused right now. He is caught between his wife and his mother. But deep down he knows the truth. He just needs time to accept it. How much time I do not know. But you cannot control that. All you can do is keep being who you are. Strong, honest, available, and let him figure out the rest. After we hung up, I sat in Jim's chair and thought about what she said. Strong, honest, available. That was who I used to be. Before I started disappearing. Before I let them turn me into a shadow. Maybe it was time to become that woman again. The next morning, Saturday, I woke with a new resolve. I showered, dressed in my good clothes, and made a real breakfast. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit, food that took effort, food that mattered. At 10 o'clock, I drove to Ethan's school. It was not a school day, but I knew he had basketball practice on Saturday mornings. I had been to enough games over the years to know the schedule. The parking lot was half full when I arrived. Parents waiting in cars, kids streaming in and out of the gym. I found a spot near the entrance and waited. 45 minutes later, Ethan emerged. His hair was damp from the shower, his gym bag slung over one shoulder. He was talking to a friend, laughing at something, looking for a moment like a normal 16-year-old without the weight of family drama on his shoulders. Then he saw me. His face changed. Surprise first, then something warmer. He said goodbye to his friend and walked toward my car. "Grandma," he said, leaning into the open window. "What are you doing here? I wanted to see you," I said. "Is that okay?" He glanced around the parking lot. "Mom dropped me off. She is supposed to pick me up in an hour. Can we talk before then? Maybe get some breakfast." He hesitated. Then he smiled. "Yeah," he said. "I could eat." We drove to a diner 3 blocks away, a place I remembered from years ago when Kevin was young. The same red vinyl booths, the same smell of coffee and bacon. Some things do not change even when everything else does. We slid into a booth near the back. Ethan ordered pancakes. I ordered coffee and a Danish I did not really want. So he said once the waitress left, "How are you doing? I mean really doing." Not the polite answer. I smiled at him. "You sound like your grandfather. Is that bad?" "No. It is the best thing anyone has said to me in weeks." He nodded slowly. "I figured you might be having a hard time. Mom and Dad have been fighting a lot since everything happened. They think I do not notice, but I notice everything. What do they fight about?" "You. Money. The house." He shrugged. "Mom blames Dad for messing everything up. Dad blames himself. Sometimes Dad blames you. Then they go around again. Do you blame me?" He looked at me directly. His eyes were clear, honest. "No," he said. "I blame them. They took advantage of you for years, and now they are mad that you stopped letting them. That is not your fault. That is theirs." My throat tightened. "Ethan," I said, "I want you to know something. Whatever happens between me and your parents, it does not change how I feel about you. You will always be my grandson. I will always love you, and my door will always be open to you." He smiled, a real smile, the kind I remembered from when he was small. "I know, Grandma, and I want you to know something too. I am on your side. I mean it. When I saw that email on Mom's phone, I knew I had to send it to you. It was not even a choice. You deserve to know what they were planning. You could have gotten in trouble for that." He shrugged again. "Some things are more important than staying out of trouble." I reached across the table and took his hand. "You are a good man, Ethan Sullivan. Your grandfather would be so proud of you." His eyes glistened slightly. He blinked and looked away. "Tell me about him sometime," he said. "Grandpa Jim. Mom talks about him sometimes, but it is always surface stuff. I want to know the real stories." "I would love that," I said. "Anytime you want." We stayed at the diner for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. His classes, his friends, his plans for college. Normal things. Family things. The conversation I should have been having with my son, but was having with my grandson instead. When I dropped him back at the gym, his mother's car was already in the parking lot. Brittany was behind the wheel, her eyes hidden behind sunglasses, her posture rigid. Ethan hesitated before getting out. "Grandma," he said quietly, "be careful. Mom is really angry. I do not know what she is planning, but I know she is planning something. Thank you for warning me." He nodded. Then he got out of my car and walked toward his mother's without looking back. Brittany watched him approach. Then she turned her head and looked directly at me. Even through the sunglasses, I could feel the hatred. I held her gaze for a moment. Then I put my car in reverse and drove away. That night, the other shoe dropped. I was watching television around 8 o'clock when my phone buzzed with an email notification. I almost ignored it. Most of my emails were junk now advertisements and newsletters I never remembered signing up for. But something made me check. The email was from a law firm, Hartley Morgan and Associates, a name I did not recognize. The subject line read, "Notice of Legal Action." My heart began to pound as I opened it. "Dear Mrs. Sullivan," the email began. This letter is to inform you that our client, Mrs. Brittany Sullivan, has retained our firm to pursue legal action regarding the following matters: defamation intentional, infliction of emotional distress, and tortious interference with familial relations. I read it 3 times before the words made sense. Brittany was suing me. The email continued with details, claims that I had made false statements about her character, claims that I had deliberately damaged her relationship with her husband, claims that my actions had caused her significant emotional harm. At the bottom was a number, the amount she was seeking in damages, $250,000. I sat very still. The television continued playing, but I could not hear it anymore. Everything had gone quiet except for the blood rushing in my ears. She was suing me. My daughter-in-law was actually suing me. I picked up my phone and called Stanley. He answered on the second ring. "Maggie." "Is everything okay?" "No," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, distant. "I just received a legal notice. Brittany is suing me." Silence. "Forward me the email," he said. "Right now." I did. Then I waited, listening to him breathe while he read. "This is absurd," he finally said. "Defamation, emotional distress. She has no grounds for any of this. Then why is she doing it? To intimidate you, to drain your resources. Legal battles are expensive, Maggie. Even when you win, you lose money. She is betting that you will back down rather than fight. I will not back down. I know, but you need to understand what you are up against. This is going to get ugly, more ugly than it already is." I looked around my living room. The photographs on the mantel, Jim's chair, the life I had built over 7 decades. "Let it get ugly," I said. "I am not running." Stanley exhaled. "All right, I will file a response first thing Monday morning. In the meantime, do not contact Brittany, do not contact Kevin, do not post anything on social media, and document everything. Every email, every text, every interaction. We are going to need all of it." After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. This was not how I imagined my 74th year. Lawsuits, betrayal, family warfare. I should have been baking pies and attending church and playing bridge with Linda. Instead, I was being sued by my own daughter-in-law for telling the truth. But underneath the shock and the fear, I felt something else rising. Anger. Real anger. The kind I had been suppressing for years. Brittany thought she could bully me into submission. She thought a legal threat would make me fold. She thought I was too old, too weak, too tired to fight back. She was wrong. I picked up my phone and called Jenny. She answered immediately. "Mom, what is wrong?" "Brittany is suing me," I said. I told her everything. The email, the claims, the amount. Jenny was silent for a long moment. Then she said something that surprised me. "Good," she said. "Good, yes, good. She has overplayed her hand. A lawsuit creates a paper trail. It puts everything in the open. It means discovery. We get to see her emails, her texts, her financial records. Every lie she has ever told, we will be able to prove it." I had not thought of that. "Mom," Jenny continued, "I know this is scary, but this might be the best thing that could have happened. Brittany just gave us the ammunition to destroy her." I thought about what she said, the discovery process, the evidence, all of Brittany's schemes exposed in court documents. "You really think so? I know so. And I'm coming back. I will book a flight tonight. You do not have to—" "Stop. I am coming. This is war now, and you are not fighting it alone." After we hung up, I made myself tea. Chamomile. Something to calm the shaking in my hands. The lawsuit changed everything. What had been a family conflict was now a legal battle. Public, official, impossible to hide. But Jenny was right. Brittany had overplayed her hand. In trying to silence me, she had given me a weapon, and I intended to use it. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I had not felt in months. The fear was still there, humming in the background, but it was smaller now, manageable. Alongside it was something stronger. Purpose. I showered and dressed. I made breakfast. I sat at the kitchen table and wrote out a list of everything I needed to do. Call Stanley. Review the lawsuit. Prepare for discovery. Document every interaction I had ever had with Brittany. Find the financial records showing every dollar I had given Kevin over the years. The list grew longer as I wrote. 10 items, 20, 30. By the time Jenny arrived that afternoon, I had filled 3 pages. She dropped her bag by the door and hugged me tight. "How are you holding up?" "Better than I expected," I said. "I think I am too angry to be scared anymore." She smiled. "Good. Anger is useful. Let us put it to work." We spent the rest of the day organizing. Every receipt, every bank statement, every email. We built a timeline of Brittany's behavior going back 6 years. By evening, we had assembled a portrait of systematic manipulation. The requests for money that started small and grew larger. The comments about my age, my memory, my ability to manage my own affairs. The Thanksgiving dinners where I was pushed further and further to the margins. The email about cognitive decline and timelines. It was all there, a pattern, a plan, a slow-motion robbery disguised as family. Mom, Jenny said, looking at the evidence spread across the dining room table. "This is damning. When Stanley sees this, Brittany's lawsuit is going to look like exactly what it is. Retaliation. That is what I am counting on." The doorbell rang. We looked at each other. It was after 9 o'clock. No one came calling at 9 o'clock with good news. I walked to the door and looked through the window. Kevin stood on my porch, alone. His shoulders were slumped, his face haggard. I opened the door. "Mom," he said. His voice was hoarse. "I heard about the lawsuit. I swear to you, I did not know she was going to do this." I studied my son's face, looking for the lie, looking for the tell. He looked broken. "Come in," I said. He walked past me into the living room. He saw Jenny at the dining room table, the documents spread everywhere, and he stopped. "Jenny," he said. "Kevin," she replied coolly. "What is all this evidence?" I said, "for when this goes to court?" He closed his eyes. "Mom," he said. I tried to stop her. When she told me what she was doing, I told her it was crazy. I told her she could not sue my own mother. We had the worst fight of our marriage. And yet here we are. He opened his eyes. She would not listen. She said you attacked her first. She said you were trying to destroy our family. She said this was the only way to make you understand. Understand what? That she is not going away. That you cannot just cut us off and expect no consequences. I felt the anger rising again. "Kevin," I said, "listen to me very carefully. Your wife stole my money. She manipulated you into believing I was losing my mind. She planned to take my house, and when I found out and fought back, she sued me. At what point in this story am I the villain?" He shook his head. "I am not saying you are the villain. Then what are you saying?" "I am saying it is complicated." He ran his hands through his hair. "Brittany is not a monster. She is just scared. We are in so much debt. We are about to lose everything. She thought if she could just get control of the situation, control of me." He did not deny it. I walked toward him, standing close enough that he had to look at me. "I am your mother," I said softly. "I gave you life. I raised you. I loved you with everything I had, and all I asked in return was to be treated like a human being. That is not complicated, Kevin. That is the simplest thing in the world." His eyes filled with tears. "I know," he whispered. "Then help me," I said. "Help me end this. Tell Brittany to drop the lawsuit. Tell her to face what she did, and maybe, just maybe, we can find a way through this together." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay," he said. "I will talk to her. I will try." He left a few minutes later looking like a man walking to his own execution. Jenny came to stand beside me at the window. "Do you think he will do it?" "I do not know," I admitted, "but I think he wants to. Is that enough?" I watched his taillights disappear into the darkness. "I guess we're about to find out," I said. Kevin called the next morning at 6:45. I was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with coffee I had not touched, watching the sky lighten through the window. Sleep had not come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Brittany's face, that smile, that calculated, empty smile. "Mom," Kevin said when I answered. His voice was flat, defeated. I knew before he said another word. "She would not listen," I said. "I tried. I really tried." We talked for 3 hours last night. I begged her to drop the lawsuit. I told her it was tearing the family apart. I told her I could not do this to you. But he exhaled heavily. She said no. She said if she backs down now, it looks like she was lying all along. She said this is the only way to clear her name. Clear her name from everything you are saying about her. The manipulation, the planning. She says you are defaming her and she has to protect herself. I closed my eyes. Kevin, I said slowly, I have emails, bank statements, a neurological evaluation. I have 6 years of financial records showing every dollar I gave you. I have evidence of everything she did. This is not defamation. This is documentation. I know, he whispered. I know. But she will not see it that way. Then what are you going to do? Silence. Kevin, I do not know, he finally said. I honestly do not know. After we hung up, Jenny appeared in the kitchen doorway. She had heard enough. He could not convince her, she said. It was not a question. No. She sat down across from me. So we fight. Yes, we fight. Stanley called at 9 with an update. He had filed our response to the lawsuit denying all of Brittany's claims and requesting a hearing to dismiss the case. He had also filed a countersuit on my behalf alleging fraud, theft, and elder financial abuse. Elder financial abuse, I repeated. That is what it is, Maggie. When a family member systematically takes money from a senior citizen through manipulation and deceit, the law has a name for it. It is a crime in Massachusetts. Do you think we can prove it? I think we have a very strong case. The discovery process will tell us more. But based on what you have already shown me, I believe Brittany Sullivan committed multiple felonies over the past 6 years. Felonies. The word hung in the air like a judgment. What happens next? We wait for the court to schedule a hearing. In the meantime, Brittany's attorneys will have to respond to our countersuit. They will try to get it dismissed, but I do not think they will succeed. The evidence is too strong. How long will all this take? Months, maybe longer. Legal battles are not fast. I can wait, I said. I have been waiting my whole life for things to be fair. A few more months will not kill me. Stanley was quiet for a moment. Maggie, he said, I want you to know something. In 30 years of practicing law, I have rarely seen someone your age stand up like this. Most people in your situation give up. They settle. They let the bullies win because fighting is too hard. You are not doing that. That takes courage. It is not courage, I said. It is stubbornness. My husband always said I was too stubborn for my own good. He laughed softly. Keep being stubborn. It is working. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange rhythm. Days filled with waiting, nights filled with worry. Jenny stayed with me working remotely from my dining room, turning my house into a command center for the legal battle ahead. We organized documents, we compiled timelines, we prepared for every possible scenario. And through it all, the silence from Kevin grew louder. He did not call, he did not text, he did not come by. It was as if the conversation we had, the one where he promised to try, had never happened. I told myself he was struggling, caught between his wife and his mother, unable to choose. But another part of me, the part that had watched him drift away over the years, knew the truth. He had already chosen. He just did not have the courage to say it. Ethan was different. He texted me every few days, short messages. Thinking of you, Grandma. Hang in there. Mom is crazy, but you are not alone. Small gestures that meant everything. One afternoon he called while walking home from school. Grandma, he said, I have to tell you something. What is it Mom knows I have been talking to you? She found the texts on my phone. She is furious. My stomach dropped. Ethan, I am so sorry. Do not be sorry. He sounded defiant. She can be as mad as she wants. I am not going to stop talking to you just because she says so. She could make your life very difficult. She already makes my life difficult. This is nothing new. I wanted to reach through the phone and hold him. This boy, this brave, stubborn, wonderful boy. I love you, Ethan. I love you too, Grandma. And I want you to know something. When I turn 18, I'm getting out of that house, and I'm going to spend every holiday with you, every single one. Tears filled my eyes. You do not have to. I want to. You are the only person in this family who treats me like a person instead of a piece of property. That means something. After we hung up, I sat for a long time thinking about what he said. Property. He felt like property in his own home, just like I had felt like property in their lives. A resource to be used, an asset to be managed, not a person with feelings and dignity and worth. Brittany had done that to both of us, created a house where people were valued only for what they could provide. I wondered if she even realized what she had done, or if she was so lost in her own entitlement that she could not see the damage anymore. The first major development came 3 weeks after the lawsuit was filed. Stanley called with news. "Maggie," he said, "we got the discovery documents from Brittany's side. You need to come to my office. Is it bad? It is complicated. Just come." Jenny drove me downtown. We sat in Stanley's conference room while he spread papers across the table. Brittany's attorneys provided financial records as part of discovery, he explained. What they did not realize is that those records contain evidence they probably should have kept hidden. Like what he pointed to a document. "This is a bank statement from 2 years ago. Look at this transfer." I leaned forward. It showed a wire transfer for $50,000 from Kevin and Brittany's account to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. "I do not understand," I said. Stanley looked at me. Neither did I at first, so I did some digging. That offshore account is registered to a shell company. The shell company is owned by another shell company, but when you trace it all the way back, guess whose name appears? I stared at him. "Brittany's maiden name," he said. "Brittany Hartley. She has been moving money offshore for years. Money that came from your accounts, Maggie. Money she stole from you." The room seemed to tilt. "She was hiding it," I whispered. "All this time. She was taking my money and hiding it overseas. It appears so. And there is more." He showed me another document. More transfers, more shell companies, a pattern of movement that spanned 5 years. "We estimate she has moved approximately $180,000 into these accounts," Stanley said. "Money that never appeared on any of the financial statements she showed Kevin. Money she has been squirreling away while claiming they were broke." Jenny grabbed my hand. "This changes everything," she said. Stanley nodded. "It does. This is not just elder financial abuse anymore. This is embezzlement, possibly money laundering. Brittany Sullivan has committed serious federal crimes." "What do we do?" "We have options. We can report this to the authorities. The FBI handles offshore financial crimes. Or we can use this as leverage to end the lawsuit and negotiate a settlement." "Which do you recommend?" Stanley leaned back. "If you want justice, we go to the authorities. Brittany could face prison time, but that process is slow and unpredictable. If you want resolution, we use this to force her hand. She drops the lawsuit. She repays what she stole, and you walk away with your life intact." I thought about it. Prison. Brittany in prison. It should have felt satisfying. It should have felt like justice. But all I could think about was Ethan. His mother in prison, his family destroyed, the scandal following him for the rest of his life. Can I think about it? Of course, but do not take too long. Once Brittany's attorneys realize what we have, they will start scrambling to limit the damage. That night, Jenny and I sat at my kitchen table with cups of tea. Neither of us drank. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I am thinking about Ethan," I said. "If Brittany goes to prison, what happens to him? He is 16. He would probably stay with Kevin. Kevin, who has been controlled by Brittany for years. Kevin, who does not know how to stand on his own." Jenny was quiet. "I have spent the last month fighting to protect myself," I continued. "And I do not regret that. But now I have to decide how far I am willing to go. Am I willing to destroy my grandson's life to punish his mother?" "Mom," Jenny said gently, "this is not your fault. Brittany made her choices. She stole your money. She hid it offshore. She committed crimes. You did not do that. She did. I know. But the consequences will not just fall on her. They will fall on everyone around her, including the people I love. So what do you want to do? I want her to face what she did. I want my money back. I want my name cleared. And I want her to know that she cannot bully me or manipulate me ever again. But I do not want to burn down everything in the process." Jenny nodded slowly. Then we use it as leverage, she said. We force her to drop the lawsuit, we negotiate repayment, and we make damn sure she knows that if she ever comes after you again, we will not hold back a second time. I looked at my daughter. She had grown into such a strong woman. Jim would have been proud. When did you get so wise? She smiled. I learned from the best. The next morning, Stanley sent a letter to Brittany's attorneys. It outlined what we had discovered: the offshore accounts, the shell companies, the money trail. It gave them 48 hours to respond before we escalated to federal authorities. The response came in 23 hours. Brittany wanted to meet. Not through lawyers, not through intermediaries, face to face. Just her and me. Stanley advised against it. Too risky, he said. Too many things could go wrong. But I wanted to look her in the eye. I wanted to see her face when she realized she had lost. I will do it, I told him. Set up the meeting. We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory, public enough that she could not try anything, private enough that we could speak freely. I arrived first and chose a table near the window. I wanted her to have to walk toward me, to feel the weight of my gaze as she approached. She came in 5 minutes late. Deliberately, I was sure. A power move, or what she thought was a power move. But the woman who sat down across from me did not look powerful. She looked tired, scared, smaller than I remembered. Helen, she said. Brittany. She folded her hands on the table. I suppose you feel like you have won. This was never about winning, I said. This was about truth. She laughed bitterly. Truth. You want to talk about truth? The truth is, you have destroyed my marriage, my reputation, my life. I destroyed nothing. I uncovered what you were hiding. Those are two very different things. She leaned forward. Do you have any idea what you have done to Kevin? He does not know what to believe anymore. He barely speaks to me. He sleeps in the guest room. You have turned him against me. I looked at her steadily. Brittany, I said, I did not turn Kevin against you. The evidence turned him against you. The offshore accounts, the hidden money, the lies you told him for years, that is what destroyed your marriage. Not me. Her jaw tightened. What do you want? She demanded. Why are we here? I want you to drop the lawsuit. Fine. I want you to repay every dollar you stole from me. She hesitated. I do not have... The offshore accounts have $180,000. That is a good start. You can liquidate them and transfer the funds to me. Her face went pale. I continued. I want you to sign a document admitting to what you did. Not for public release, just for my records. Insurance in case you ever decide to come after me again. That is blackmail. No, that is protection. There is a difference. She stared at me. Her eyes were hard, but beneath the hardness I saw something else. Desperation. And if I refuse, then I go to the FBI. You face federal charges, money laundering, tax evasion, elder financial abuse. You could spend years in prison. Your face will be on the news. Your son will read about you in the papers. You would do that to Ethan? I leaned forward. I love Ethan, I said quietly. I love him more than you have ever understood. And that is exactly why I am giving you this chance. Walk away now. Pay back what you stole. And maybe, just maybe, your son can grow up without a convicted felon for a mother. She was silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. I never wanted it to go this far, she said. Then why did it? She looked down at the table. I was scared. We were drowning in debt. Kevin's job was unstable. The investments failed. I saw your money sitting there and I thought she would never notice. She is old. She does not pay attention. I thought I could borrow it and put it back before anyone knew. But you did not put it back. The market crashed. Everything went wrong. And by then I was in too deep. I could not tell Kevin what I had done. So I kept moving money, hiding it, trying to find a way out. And when you could not find a way out, you decided to take my house too. She closed her eyes. That was Brittany the planner talking, she whispered. Brittany the survivor. I convinced myself I was protecting my family, that I was doing what needed to be done. You were protecting yourself? Maybe. She opened her eyes. Probably. I sat back and looked at this woman. My daughter-in-law. The mother of my grandson. The person who had spent 6 years slowly draining everything I had. She was not a monster. That would have been easier. Monsters you can hate purely, completely. Brittany was something more complicated. A frightened woman who made terrible choices and kept making them until she could not stop. It did not excuse what she did, but it explained it. "I will agree to your terms," she said quietly. "All of them. The lawsuit, the money, the document. I will sign whatever you want." I nodded slowly. "And one more thing," I said. She looked up. "You will apologize to Kevin, not for getting caught, for lying to him, for manipulating him, for making him believe his mother was losing her mind. He deserves to know the truth from your mouth." Her chin trembled. "He will leave me," she whispered. "Maybe. Or maybe he will forgive you. That is between the two of you, but he cannot make that choice without the truth." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "All right," she said. "I will tell him everything." We sat in silence for a moment. Two women on opposite sides of a war that should never have been fought. "Helen," she said finally, "for what it is worth, I am sorry. Not just because I got caught. I am sorry for how I treated you. The dinners, the leftovers, making you feel invisible. You did not deserve any of it." I looked at her, searching for sincerity, searching for the lie. For once, I found only exhaustion. "Thank you," I said. "That does not fix anything. But thank you for saying it." I stood up. "Stanley will be in touch with the paperwork. I expect everything completed within 2 weeks." She nodded. I walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. The air outside was cold and clean. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, breathing it in. It was over. Not the healing. That would take much longer. But the war, the fighting, the fear, that part was finally over. Jenny was waiting in the car. Well, she asked as I climbed in. She agreed to everything. Jenny stared at me. "Just like that, just like that." She shook her head slowly. "You are incredible." "You know that I am tired," I said. "That is what I am." She laughed. "You are both." We drove home through streets I had known my whole life, past the school where Kevin learned to read, past the church where Jim and I were married, past the hospital where my children were born and my husband died. This town held everything, every memory, every loss, every victory. And now it held one more. When we got home, there was a car in the driveway I did not recognize, a blue sedan, nothing fancy. Kevin got out as we pulled up. He looked different, older somehow, like the past few weeks had aged him years. "Mom," he said as I approached. "Kevin, what are you doing here?" Brittany called me. She told me about the meeting. She told me what she agreed to. I nodded slowly. She also told me about the money. He swallowed hard. The offshore accounts. I did not know. I swear to you, I did not know about any of it. "I believe you." His eyes filled with tears. "I am so sorry," he said, "for everything. Not just this. For years. For taking you for granted. For letting Brittany convince me you were declining. For being so goddamn blind." I reached out and touched his face. "You are not blind, Kevin. You were manipulated by someone you loved. That does not make you stupid. It makes you human." He broke then. Years of walls crumbling at once. He pulled me into a hug and cried against my shoulder like he had not cried since he was a child. I held him. My son. The boy I raised. The man he had become. For the first time in years, I felt like I was holding someone real. After a long time, he pulled back and wiped his face. "Can we start over?" he asked. "I know I do not deserve it, but can we try?" I looked at him, really looked. "We cannot start over," I said. "Too much has happened, but we can start from here, right now, today." He nodded. "I would like that." "Then come inside," I said. Jenny made coffee, and I think the three of us have a lot to talk about. We walked into the house together. Behind us, the sun was setting. In front of us, the lights were coming on. I did not know what the future would bring. Healing is slow. Trust takes time to rebuild. But for the first time in a very long while, I felt hope. The paperwork took 10 days to finalize. Stanley handled everything with his usual efficiency. The lawsuit was dismissed, the offshore accounts were liquidated, $173,000 was transferred back to my account, the remainder having been lost to transfer fees and currency fluctuations over the years. A signed confession sat in Stanley's safe insurance against any future schemes. Brittany had done exactly what she promised. No resistance, no tricks, no last-minute reversals. I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt tired. The kind of tired that settles into your bones after a long illness finally breaks. You survive, but the surviving takes something out of you that does not come back easily. Jenny stayed with me through all of it. She had extended her leave from work, telling her supervisor that her mother needed her. Every morning she made coffee. Every evening she made dinner. Every night she sat with me in the living room talking or not talking, just being present. One evening, about a week after the settlement was finalized, she asked me something I had been asking myself. Was it worth it? I looked up from the book I was pretending to read. What do you mean? She curled her legs under her on the couch. All of it, the fighting, the lawyers, the stress. Brittany agreeing to pay back the money is good, but you spent thousands on legal fees. You lost months of peace. You almost lost Kevin entirely. Was it worth it? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Yes, I said finally. Even though you did not get everything back, I got something more important than money. What, myself? She smiled softly. I spent years disappearing. I continued, shrinking myself to fit into spaces other people made for me, letting them treat me like furniture because fighting seemed harder than accepting. And then one night I sat at their table eating cold leftovers while the dog ate better than me, and something inside me snapped. Not broke, snapped. Like a rubber band stretched too far, finally letting go. Jenny nodded. The money was never really the point, I said. The money was just evidence, proof of how little they valued me. What I was really fighting for was the right to be seen, to be treated like a person, to matter in my own family. And do you feel like you matter now? I looked around my living room, the photographs on the mantel, Jim's chair, the life I had built and nearly lost and fought to keep. I do, I said. For the first time in years, I do. Kevin came by the next afternoon. He had been coming by regularly since that evening when he broke down on my doorstep. Not every day, but often enough that I had started expecting the sound of his car in the driveway. We were learning how to be around each other again, carefully, like two people crossing a frozen lake, testing each step before putting their full weight down. He knocked instead of just walking in. Another new habit, a sign of respect he had not shown before. "Mom," he said when I opened the door. "Kevin, come in." He looked better than he had a few weeks ago. The dark circles under his eyes were fading. He had shaved. He was wearing a clean shirt instead of the wrinkled clothes he had been living in during the worst of it. We sat in the living room, the same positions as always. Him on the couch, me in Jim's chair. "I talked to a divorce lawyer yesterday," he said, without preamble. I felt something shift in my chest. And he rubbed his hands on his knees. "I have not decided anything yet, but I needed to know my options. How did Brittany react? She does not know yet. I wanted to understand the process before I told her. That is wise." He looked at me. "Do you think I should leave her?" The question hung between us. "Kevin," I said carefully, "that is not my decision to make." "I know, but I am asking your opinion." I took a breath. "I think Brittany did terrible things," I said. "She stole money. She lied. She manipulated you into believing I was losing my mind. Those are facts. But I also think people can change if they want to. The question is not whether Brittany did wrong. The question is whether she is willing to do the work to become someone different." He was quiet for a moment. "She has been going to therapy," he said. "Started last week. The therapist specializes in financial trauma and impulse control. Brittany says she wants to understand why she did what she did. That is a good sign. Is it, or is it just another manipulation?" "I cannot answer that," I said. "Only time will answer that." He leaned back against the couch. "I love her," he admitted, "even after everything. I still love her. I do not know if that makes me weak or stupid or just human. It makes you human, I said. Love does not turn off like a light switch. It fades or grows depending on what you feed it. Right now, you are deciding what to feed yours. He nodded slowly. Ethan asked me something yesterday, he said. He asked if I was going to leave his mother. What did you tell him? I told him the truth. That I did not know yet, that I was trying to figure out what was best for everyone. How did he take it? Kevin smiled sadly. He said, "Whatever you decide, Dad, just make sure it is your decision. Not Mom's, not Grandma's, yours. That boy is wiser than all of us," I said. Yeah, he really is. We sat together in the quiet for a while. Not uncomfortable, just present. "Mom," Kevin said eventually, "I want to ask you something. Go ahead. Thanksgiving is next month. I know it is too soon. I know things are still raw. But I was wondering, and please say no if it is too much, I was wondering if you would host this year." I stared at him. "You want me to host Thanksgiving? Only if you want to. And only family. You, me, Jenny, Ethan. Maybe Brittany, if you are willing. But it would be your house, your table, your rules." I thought about last Thanksgiving, the cold leftovers, the chair from the hallway, the untouched pie. And then I thought about this Thanksgiving, my table, my food, my family. "Yes," I said. Kevin blinked. "Yes, yes, I will host." His face broke into a smile, a real smile, the kind I had not seen from him in years. "Thank you, Mom. That means everything." After he left, I stood in my kitchen and looked around. This room had held so many memories. Jim teaching Kevin to flip pancakes, Jenny's birthday cakes lined up on the counter, holiday meals that filled the house with warmth and noise and love. Somewhere along the way, those memories had been buried under years of disappointment. I had forgotten what this kitchen could be, what this house could be. Maybe it was time to remember. The weeks leading up to Thanksgiving passed faster than I expected. I threw myself into planning. Menus, shopping lists, cleaning schedules. For the first time in years, I had something to look forward to, something that mattered. Jenny helped when she could, calling from Seattle with suggestions and encouragement. She would fly in the day before staying through the weekend. Kevin promised to bring the wine. Ethan volunteered to help with cooking, a skill I did not know he had. Even Brittany, in her own way, contributed. She called me 3 days before Thanksgiving. It was the first time we had spoken directly since the coffee shop. "Helen," she said. Her voice was different, softer, less performative. I wanted to ask if there was anything I could bring. I considered refusing. Old habits, old defenses. "What did you have in mind?" I asked instead. She hesitated. "I make a sweet potato casserole, my grandmother's recipe. It is the one dish I actually know how to cook." I almost smiled. "Bring it," I said. "Thank you." "And Helen." "Yes, thank you for letting me come. I know I do not deserve to be there." "No," I said honestly. "You do not. But Ethan deserves to have his family together. So we will try. I appreciate that more than you know." After we hung up, I stood by the phone for a long moment. Brittany was trying. Whether that effort was genuine or calculated, I could not say yet. But she was trying. And trying, I had learned, was the first step toward anything. The morning of Thanksgiving, I woke before dawn. I lay in bed watching the ceiling lighten, thinking about all the Thanksgivings that had come before. The ones with Jim, when the house was full of noise and children and the smell of turkey roasting. The ones after he died, quieter, smaller, but still warm. The ones at Kevin's house where I had slowly become invisible. This one would be different. I got up and started cooking. By noon, the turkey was in the oven. The stuffing was prepped. The cranberry sauce was simmering. The house smelled like holidays should smell, rich and warm and welcoming. Jenny arrived at 2, bursting through the door with her suitcase and a bottle of expensive champagne. "Mom," she called out, "I am here and I am hungry." We hugged in the kitchen, laughing at nothing, just happy to be together. Kevin arrived at 3 with Ethan. My grandson had grown since I last saw him. Taller, more confident. He walked into my kitchen like he owned the place and immediately started helping with the potatoes. "What can I do, Grandma?" he asked. "Peel," I said. "And tell me about school." He talked while he worked. Classes, friends, a girl named Sophie he had started noticing. Normal teenage things, the things I had missed during all the fighting. Brittany arrived last at 4, carrying her grandmother's sweet potato casserole. She looked nervous as she stepped through the door, uncertain of her welcome. She had dressed carefully, nicely, but not ostentatiously, and her makeup was minimal. For the first time since I had known her, she looked almost humble. "Helen," she said, "thank you for having me." I took the casserole from her hands. It was warm, homemade. She had actually cooked. "You are welcome," I said. "Come in." We gathered in the living room while the turkey finished. Kevin poured wine. Jenny told stories about her job in Seattle. Ethan showed everyone pictures on his phone. Even Brittany laughed at one of Jenny's jokes. A real laugh, not her usual performance. I sat in Jim's chair and watched them. My family. Broken in some places, healing in others. Imperfect, but present. Jim would have loved this moment. Dinner was served at 5. I had set the table myself. My good china, my mother's tablecloth, candles in the holders Jim gave me for our 20th anniversary. Everything placed with intention, with care. I sat at the head of the table. My house, my rules. Kevin sat to my right, Jenny to my left, Ethan across from me, Brittany beside her son. We held hands while I said grace, a tradition from my childhood that I had let fade over the years. It felt right to bring it back. "We are grateful for this food," I said, "for this home, for each other, for the chance to begin again. Amen." "Amen," they echoed. Then we ate. The turkey was perfect, golden and moist and falling off the bone. The stuffing was savory. The cranberry sauce had just the right amount of tart. Even Brittany's sweet potato casserole was good, genuinely good, with a crust of brown sugar and pecans. Grandma Ethan said around a mouthful of mashed potatoes, "This is the best meal I have ever had." "Better than the fancy restaurants your mother takes you to?" I asked. He grinned. "Way better." Brittany looked down at her plate, but she did not argue. We talked through dinner, real conversation. Kevin told stories about his early years in sales, the disasters and the triumphs. Jenny described her latest patient, a stubborn old man who reminded her of her father. Ethan shared his plans for college, still vague but hopeful. Even Brittany contributed, carefully, quietly, nothing performative. She talked about her therapy sessions, about the things she was learning about herself, about the childhood she had never discussed growing up with a mother who valued appearances above everything else. "I was taught that money meant safety," she said at one point, "that without money, you were nothing. I internalized that, made it part of who I was. And when we started struggling financially, I panicked. I did things I am not proud of, things I am still trying to understand. No one responded immediately. The confession hung in the air. Then Kevin reached over and took her hand. "We are all trying to understand," he said. I watched them, husband and wife, broken but not destroyed. Maybe they would survive this. Maybe they would not. But in this moment, at this table, they were trying, and that was more than I had seen from them in years. After dinner, I brought out dessert. Not the French bakery pies Brittany used to order, my mother's apple pie, the one I had made for 50 years, the one no one had touched last Thanksgiving. I set it on the table and began cutting slices. Ethan got the first piece, then Jenny, then Kevin, then Brittany. Each slice was generous. Each plate was full. I served myself last and sat down. "This is incredible," Jenny said after her first bite. "Mom, you have outdone yourself." "It is just pie," I said, but I was smiling. "It is not just pie," Ethan said seriously. "It is your pie. That makes it special." I felt tears prick at my eyes. I blinked them back. After dessert, we moved to the living room. Kevin built a fire. Jenny put on music. Ethan sprawled on the floor with his phone texting Sophie. Brittany helped me clear the dishes, working quietly beside me in the kitchen. "Helen," she said as we rinsed plates, "I want to say something." I turned off the water and faced her. "I know I cannot undo what I did," she continued. "I know trust takes time, maybe longer than I have. But I want you to know that I am going to keep trying. Not because I have to, because I want to, because you deserve better than what I gave you." I studied her face, looking for the lie, looking for the performance. I saw only exhaustion, and beneath that, something that might have been sincerity. "I appreciate that, Brittany," I said. "I cannot promise forgiveness. Not yet, but I can promise to give you the chance to earn it." She nodded. "That is more than I deserve." "Yes," I agreed. "It is." She almost smiled. We finished the dishes in silence, but it was a different kind of silence than before. Less hostile, more hopeful. Baby steps. That night, after everyone had gone home, I sat alone in my living room. The fire had burned down to embers. The dishes were done. The house was quiet. I looked around at the space I had fought so hard to keep. The photographs on the mantel, Jim's chair, the pie dish still sitting on the kitchen counter, now empty except for crumbs. 1 year ago, I had been invisible. 1 year ago, I had been eating cold leftovers while the dog ate better. 1 year ago, I had been disappearing. Now I was here, in my house, surrounded by the evidence of a family trying to rebuild itself, a family that finally saw me. It had cost me everything to get here: money, peace, years of my life I would never get back. But sitting in the quiet of my living room watching the embers glow, I knew it had been worth it. I was 74 years old. I had maybe 10 good years left, maybe more if I was lucky, and I intended to spend every one of those years as myself, not as someone's resource, not as someone's backup plan, not as furniture to be moved around and forgotten, as myself. Maggie Sullivan, wife, mother, grandmother, survivor. The phone buzzed with a text. "Ethan, thanks for today, Grandma. Best Thanksgiving ever. Love you." I typed back, "Love you too, sweetheart. See you at Christmas." He sent a heart emoji. Simple, pure, real. I set the phone down and closed my eyes. Jim's voice echoed in my memory. Something he had said to me years ago when the kids were small and money was tight, and I wondered if we were going to make it. "Maggie," he had said, "you are the strongest person I know. Do not ever let anyone make you forget that." I had forgotten. For a long time, I had let them make me small. But not anymore. The next morning I woke to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window. I lay there for a moment, feeling the warmth on my face, listening to the silence of the house. My house. The house Jim and I had built together. The house I had saved. I got up and made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table and watched the birds at the feeder Jim had installed 20 years ago. I thought about everything that had happened and everything that was still to come. The healing would not be quick. Trust would not rebuild overnight. There would be setbacks, disappointments, moments when I wondered if any of it was worth it. But there would also be moments like yesterday, moments of connection and warmth and family, moments that reminded me why I had fought so hard. The phone rang, Jenny calling from her flight back to Seattle. "Mom," she said, "I just wanted to say thank you for yesterday, for everything." "Thank you for being there," I said. "I could not have done any of this without you." She laughed. "Yes, you could. You are the toughest person I know." I smiled. "I learned from your father." After we hung up, I finished my coffee and washed the cup. Then I walked into the living room and stood in front of the fireplace. The photographs looked back at me. Kevin as a baby, Jenny on her wedding day, Jim in his favorite suit, Ethan as a toddler covered in cake frosting grinning at the camera. My family. Imperfect. Complicated. Mine. I reached out and touched Jim's photograph. "We did okay?" I whispered. "It got rough for a while, but we did okay." His smile looked back at me, steady, warm, proud. I turned and walked to the window. Outside, the world was going about its business. Cars passing, neighbors walking dogs, children riding bikes down the street. Ordinary life, beautiful in its ordinariness. I was 74 years old. I had survived loss and betrayal and heartbreak. I had been treated like nothing by people who should have loved me most. I had fought back and lost and won again, and I was still standing, not because I was special, not because I was extraordinary, but because I had finally remembered something I had forgotten for too long. I matter, my life matters, my dignity matters. And no one, not my son, not my daughter-in-law, not anyone has the right to make me feel otherwise. I turned away from the window and walked back into my kitchen. There were dishes to wash, laundry to fold, a life to live, simple things, ordinary things, the things that make up a life, my life, the one I almost gave away, the one I fought to keep, the one I would never stop protecting. I picked up a dish towel and smiled. They gave me leftovers. They pushed me to the margins. They tried to take everything I had built. And I rose. Not with drama. Not with vengeance. Just with the quiet, stubborn certainty that I deserved more. That is the lesson I learned at 74 years old. You are never too old to demand respect. You are never too tired to fight for yourself. And you are never ever too small to stand tall. My name is Margaret Sullivan. I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a survivor, and I will never eat leftovers again.